Yes, yes, yes. Great things to everyone. There is a word that goes out that says it takes a village to raise a child. I want to cite the same because of my experience and how I was brought up. I was not only brought up by my parents or my family. I was brought up by the village that I grew up in. So I don't know, nowadays it's hard to say or to cite the same thing where everything seems to be not the way they used to be. I grew up in an environment where if you see a mother and a father out there who are not your biological parents, you would greet them and you will respect them the same way you would respect your parents' home. But in our days, those things are totally something else. I remember a time when I was in a school in lower grades. Whenever I go maybe to town to buy things, if I'm sent to town to buy things and I come across with my teacher, let's say from a distance, I would hide. And the question will be, why am I hiding? But it was kind of a norm way back then where you see your teacher or someone who is a teacher within your school, you hide, you take a cover. I mean, it's like after school, but it was something that I and other people who grew up doing. I don't know whether was it a normal thing or what, but with that respect, with that think of then would hide, you know. Maybe it's because of you don't want to be a subject of a day in that next day, in the next day, you know. So that's one of those things. So in our days, I see young ones, you know, would do things like publicly so without any fear of whatsoever, you know. But way back then, they wouldn't do something, you know, that your neighbor, if your parents are not there or there is no one home, your neighbor would be the watchman or whatever, but we call a watchman. Your neighbor will be the watchman, will look after you and will look after your family property. It was kind of a normal, you know, and you wouldn't do things knowing that the neighbor is there, you know, even inviting friends over knowing that the neighbor, because everything that you would be busy doing in your home, in your own home, your neighbor will capture everything and will tell everything to your parents. And the fear was there. I don't know, but it was there. It was more like naturally so. But nowadays, those things are not something of to say like it's happening, because even if you walk down the street and you see your neighbor or you see someone who elderly person, it doesn't have to be your neighbor, but if you see an elderly person, whatever, even if maybe you are smoking, you will hide, you know, or maybe you are walking with your girlfriend or your friend that seems to be um, not the same sex, but you'll kind of hide because of You fear the embarrassment that what this elderly person might say to you. You don't want to be embarrassed. But like I say, things have changed. And we cannot blame the generation of today of those things. They did not form any of, they came in an environment that is already the way it is. And it's very difficult to change things, kind of normalize them to make them look the way you used to be way back or in 20 years ago or 40 years ago or 60 years ago. You know, those were the times then, and we need to also to move with times, because honestly, so that's life. That is life. We can't change what we cannot change. You know, we can try, but we won't change it. It's the way it is. And the laws way back then were different than the laws that we are like seeing now. Yes, some will argue to their own point of view the matter of corporal punishment that was a part of it in schools. When things were changed, I could see the system also changed, and how teachers will embark on trying to instill discipline. Hey, it was not easy, but the respect was there, and also the teachers were like very disciplined, and they wouldn't do things in front of the learners that seems to be otherwise. But what I would say is that everything that the teachers were doing it to be an example for the learners and not to do things that will look otherwise. The appreciation of everything that those teachers did to us as a generation of then, before 2000, it was quite something, to say the least, because where we are today and the things that we are experiencing, I'm telling you the truth that I won't be alive today if I didn't listen to those teachers. And I'm grateful of what they gave me. Yes, I didn't push up to where I wanted to be, but I'm grateful for the life that I have and the teachings that I receive from them. Some are late, some are, are pensioners, but for those who are still alive, I salute them. And not forgetting the uncles and the Daba wars of then, and the Makas of then, and the aunties of then. They were also very, very helpful. They play such a magnificent role in our lives. And the greatness of all is that we are what we are because of them. And we are what we are because of what they did to us. Gratefully so. We are where we are today because of what they did to us. They educated us, not just because of they wanted to make us feel bad. No, no, no. They were really bringing us up to something that we should be prepared for future things, and we are indeed experiencing those things. And those things are really happening. And some of the teachings and the things that they are placed to us, we see them. They are really happening. Some of the things are written in the scriptures, you know, they were more like prophetic. And indeed, those things are happening today. As they are happening today, we should really go back and try to see where did we pick it up wrong and where did we planted it wrong, because what is growing now is totally something that is out of this world. But yes, we should be strong and be mindful. Thank you very much. I would like you to subscribe and continue supporting my channel, and appreciate it a lot.